that. So we're racing the sun right now. We trying to get all these projectors set up and in place, so as soon as it's dark, I can run from place to place, literally run from rooftop to rooftop and try and map these as soon as possible, because we only have 2 hours of showtime, really. And so it's a mad rush, racing the sun. Hey, okay, so we need a table up here. We're trying to get the projector locked up, but there's no tables up on the roof. Okay, I'm just concerned on time because we also have we need another projector. We need to get a different projector for over here because we don't have the generator, right? Trying to estimate before the sun goes down. Yeah, I've never tried to do this many projections in one night before, that's for sure.
Ghost signs are a funny thing because unless you've taken note that they're there, you'll never know that they weren't in the first place. The signs in the exchange are kind of one of the defining things about the area, but you never really think, you know, who painted these, who put them up on the side of the wall, why are they even there? I think most people would walk around the downtown Winnipeg area and not even give these signs a second look. I think that's part of the reason why I'm so drawn to this is to get people to just take pause in their day and sort of look around and celebrate something that's all around them. And I think that you know, the more that we are able to draw attention to the signs, to let people know that they exist, the stories behind them, the products, the people that put them up there, they all have an amazing story to tell. We just sort of have to look up.
I think when I see ghost signs, the first thing that I think of is I imagine some guy up on the scaffolding painting it. And I always think, like, what would it be like to take that for granted? To be walking down the street and there's a guy painting and just, oh yeah, there's old Bobby up on the side of the building painting a sign again. I don't know, that's the thing that hits me first. And almost that's the thing that inspires me to keep painting my signs. Maybe one day I'll be up there on hopefully something a little bit safer than a 2x4, but
yeah,
it'd be
super cool to like paint a sign that would eventually become a ghost sign at some point.
Not many of us liked walls because swing stages sucked back then. You really, like you were cranking like this 6 stories. By the time you got up there, if you had to go to the bathroom, God help you. Literally. That's something that you look at these ghost signs right now and you think, wow, that's pretty cool. But can you imagine the guy that actually had to paint for the whole day, whether it was plus 30 or not, on that wall? And some people, it was a household income. But the ones that really, really took the passion to heart, they lived and breathed it.
I began documenting the signs in the Exchange District in 2014. I thought there were probably about maybe 20 or 30 of them, and literally had to walk through the streets with my head looking at the tops of buildings and taking pictures of them. At the end of the process, after about a year and a half, turned out there were closer to about 150 in the Exchange, spanning about 20 city blocks. The story of the Exchange District really is based on the fact that the Hudson Bay Company lay claim to all of the land here. And when we became a province in 1870, part of the negotiation was that they were given a parcel that they could do whatever they wanted with. And that extended from the bay on Portage Avenue to Portage and Main, from Portage and Main to the Forks to the Ledge, and the Ledge back to the bay again. They decided that they were going to divvy the lots up and sell them at about 3 times their value. As there was an influx of sort of savvy business owners coming to the province, they didn't want to pay those exorbitant rates, and they decided to locate just outside the catchment area. And that's how you have these amazing turn of the century buildings on the north side of Portage Avenue and east of Main Street, and where today's Exchange District is. After the Second World War, when we started to build larger high-rises and develop the core of the city as a larger downtown area, it was a lot cheaper to tear down a row of houses than it was to tear down an entire block of old brick and stone warehouses. The area became a National Historic Site in 1997, so we're unique in the fact that in Manitoba we have this collection of turn-of-the-century advertising all within the span of 20 city blocks.
So when we first started, we started posting our work to Instagram, and people started noticing it. But the main thing that came out of it was we got an email asking if we did custom signs. And then from there, it just kind of steamrolled. We do a lot of chalkboard signage, sandwich boards, lettering art, which is a really big one. A lot of temporary signage as well, gifts for people, and a lot of event paintings.
It is sort of ironic that it went from this really traditional way of making signs and of advertising, like, because that's what signs originally were, right? Commercial art. And then we're sharing it on like one of the more popular like new age social media sites. All of the text responses are just like awesome, and then like a happy face and thumbs up and stuff, or like one of those like high five emojis or whatever it is. So it's kind of like, I don't know what this means, but yay, I guess it's positive. When we first started, the second time we took out the cart, this one guy walked up to me and asked me if I had a real job. I was like, obviously. Because I thought he was joking, so I kind of like gave him like a joking answer back. I was like, oh yeah, no, this is it. And he was like, oh. He basically went on like an anti-millennial rant, and I was like, okay. Oh God, because he was all like jovial about it too. He's like, oh, I bet you guys, look at these kids, they don't even know. And I was like, don't get me started, sir.
Yeah, show it with the gold album beside, because most people comment and go, wow, where'd you get that album? And the certificate, it cost me a year of my life, and I had to earn it. It was a sign painting course. It was all geared towards that. We lettered for 4 hours in the morning each day. Pencil, paper, drew our letters, painted our letters. And that was the cat's ass. We all loved it. Turned out to be the very last year it was available. It was my heart and soul. I just loved and breathed this industry, and now it's digital. It's not the same. You don't wake up with the same wow or love for it. But when I got in the business, I was lucky. I got to see the tail end of it. So I would say 80% of the work was sign writing. About 10 years later, it all caught up to us. So I had 10 years before the writing was on the wall. It's going digital, not to mention vinyl cutting. And I think for the last 15 years, for sure in the business, it's been printing. The printers now, they're capable of printing a 4-foot by 8-foot sign panel in 10 minutes. We used to hand paint all that. All of it. Just about every highway sign you saw, billboard sign, hand painted. Anything on the walls, yes, hand painted for sure. When you're sign painting, you're doing one job. That job. When you're doing digital work, you're doing that job and you have 40 emails waiting for you and work orders and phone calls. There's more of a tranquility with the art, for sure. There's no tranquility in that. But it happens all day, all day. Yeah.
About a year ago, I came across a guy celebrating ghost signs in an entirely new way. He recreates them and then projects them on the sides of buildings like they were freshly painted. As I've watched his progress, over the past 12 months, he's probably done about 30 different signs. When we started talking about his project and I told him about the collection that we have here, he said, I'd love to help out in any way I can to help celebrate the ones in Winnipeg's downtown.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Tomorrow. Oh, wow. I can't really believe it's happening, but whatever. It is, right? We have to figure it out. So, just want to run through itinerary for tomorrow. I'm going to pick you up at the airport around 5:30. And then we'll head to 4th right away for your talk. If that's the one, they have the rooftop patio underneath the Milady sign. So, well, it must be weird, like actually seeing the signs for the first time in person. You've been looking at these things for the last couple of weeks.
I have this feeling when I see them in real life and I haven't physically been there. It's like this weird celebrity, like starstruck feeling where you've been staring at it for so long, but you see it in real life and it exists. I don't know. It's that same feeling for me. So I'm really excited to see them in real life.
Awesome. Okay. Well, hey, T-minus 15 hours. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Sweet. Thanks. See you tomorrow.
All right.
Later. My name's Craig Winslow. I'm an experiential designer, and I've been working on this project called Light Capsules. It all started driving across the country impulsively in Omaha, Nebraska. I found one of these old ads, and I couldn't stop thinking about projection mapping and bringing these old ghost signs back to life. A year later, I was doing this full-time as a creative resident for Adobe, and I've been traveling, projection mapping and recreating these signs digitally. First things first, I will gather as much information as I can about the sign itself, the building, any context that I can get into my head of like what this building was, what used to be there. From there, I will pretty much take high resolution photos and I will stitch them together to give myself a perfectly flat template with which to recreate custom type over it. This sort of work isn't just kind of looking up what typeface it was. All of this was hand painted. So as such, I recreate every single letter painstakingly to make sure that embracing every imperfection in the paint is pristine and exactly what was originally painted on the walls. Some of my favorite ghost sign candidates are ones that have multiple layers to them because there's more history that I can bring to life. It's really rewarding when I do figure out a sign, like a layer that was previously lost to time. There's even ones here in Winnipeg, the Stobart sign. Barbara Ellis is like a layer that was previously very difficult to see. I got like the Barber, I got the Ellis in here, but the rest of it, envelope manufacturers, Ames, Holson tires, that's like impossible to see without a historical reference. And we found one in the Virtual Heritage Winnipeg archive that was crucial to actually figuring out that final third layer.
One of the things that I think is most interesting about the signs in the exchange is they tell the story or the evolution of advertising, whether the elements have taken their toll and it's faded completely, whether it's been painted over by 2 or 3 businesses over time, or whether a building owner has taken over and decided to just whitewash the side of a building because they didn't like the look of the sign. Any sign that you're able to find around the world tells an incredible story just through the layers of paint. Advertising at its base is just understanding human behavior and how they think and trying to persuade them to think favorably about a product or a service. Initially, it was the name of a store, Sam the Butcher. As time went on, they would add a slogan or a way to persuade you or to differentiate themselves from other people. So it would be Sam the Butcher, the cheapest meat around, or the best cuts that you can possibly get. Over time, that you were able to distill that slogan and that name into a single logo or identifier for that product or service. Once signs started using color over just black type on the wall, you can date them to around maybe the 20s or 30s. As soon as there's a logo or a full product replica, that was happening in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. As the pace of technology changed and advertising techniques changed, it just meant that you were looking at cheaper, faster, and better was thrown out the window. Sign painting was replaced by cheaper alternatives like vinyl banners, billboards out in the public. It's a lot easier to print something or to typeset using a computer than it is to actually pay somebody to scale a wall and paint a sign. Unfortunately, I think that as previous generations aren't here anymore, those original skill sets are being lost.
There was some really awful looking signs. With the advent of the computers, there was an affordability for people that really didn't have the background to buy the equipment. So they got into this, and what they did is went for the fast dollar, and it became very hard to compete with because you're still doing the old quality and painting, or you would combine the two even, but you would have paid and tried and true experienced graphic designers setting up the sign, and then there was a teacher on the weekends. He was doing it, and he would do it for a quarter of your cost. We couldn't compete against that. We had to learn, adapt, and buy this equipment. You had to go willingly with a bit of kicking and screaming. Do I think it's still a better looking sign the way we used to do it? Yep, no doubt. People are sick of digital now because it's everywhere. So the last 3 years I've been training people, and the interest was amazing. I was surprised. For something that we all thought, from my age group and older, gosh, it's dead, and we kind of gave up. We saw this flood of people that needed to get here, and they needed to learn. So if I leave something behind, they keep doing it, and they train somebody else down the road, then the 35 years I put in, and friends of mine that have put in 45 years, it's not for nothing. 100 years from now, if nobody does this or picks this up anymore, there won't be anything like this left. The only thing I caution Bridget and Joe and others that are gonna take the torch is learn to do it well, or else sign painting and sign writing will be viewed as, oh, you can get that, but it's really messy looking. So they have to learn to do it well in order to keep this torch. This isn't something that is going to be free for them. They're going to have to work for it. And it's going to take 5 or 10 years to get good at it.
We've been getting a lot of requests to do lettering work like live, and it's been really cool. Maybe like deep down always wanted to be a performer of some sort, I don't know. I think it's a good way to get artists paid, especially if people can see the amount of work that goes into a piece of artwork, not just like sign painting, but for just like any type of work in general. You know, they see the process and they appreciate like the value of how much work went into that one project, especially if it's something that's unique and custom and hand done. And that, you know, I'm sure there's like a huge portion of the population that don't really care at the same time. But I don't make signs for them. I make signs for people who care about this type of stuff. And I care for them.
One of the things that Rick taught us was he really liked the word craftsmanship, making something by hand that's good quality and that works for a long time. And I think personally I'd rather spend like a little bit more money on fewer things and have good quality things that will last for a while. People, I think, got really sick of kind of constantly being wasteful and mass-produced stuff, yeah.
And that's a trend or phase, or hopefully it's not a phase. Hopefully it's not a phase. Well, that's been happening for like a number of years already. So, and it's not just like in the sign painting thing. I guess it just like kind of falls under this movement of
sustainability,
yes, and buying local and handmade by like someone that you know.
And showing support for like craftsmanship too. There's like a certain quality to it that you can't get with like a vinyl plotter or just a printer.
Each S is going to look the same like straight away, but if you take a closer look at it, it's going to be a different S.
And it's these tiny little, when you get in closer, you realize that somebody spent the time painting this, you know. So I think there's certainly an appreciation for it.
I like to think like the signs that we paint aren't just signs, that they're like art pieces as well. We painted it, we put our blood, sweat, and tears into it. Yeah.
Not literally.
And there's blood in our signs.
Not literally. Not literally.
Gosh, if you could have areas in every city where you have a perception of where you are by something being hand-painted, so that you're supporting your local artists and sign writers and people that grew up with this craft, it'd be an easier, nicer, more beautiful place, right? Wouldn't it? Like we could actually walk down the street and go, wow, I wonder who did that. I wonder how they did it. Instead of, that's a nice print. There's a difference.
What makes Winnipeg unique with ghost signs is that there are, one, so many of them, but also there are so many in a dense space. But they've also lasted for such a long time. I think there's just this special feeling where you look down a certain street and you'll see a building and it just seems like it's like very old but very well maintained as well. And there's not many cities that kind of take that pride and like a, I don't know, sense of history to it.
Craig has been working for the past year, but he's doing one in an evening and then moving on to the next one. And for me, what I want to do is bring multiple signs back to life in one single evening or one event. We'll probably have a later morning. We'll just get together at like 10 or something. We'll get whatever equipment we need from CT Rentals, and hopefully we can avoid getting another projector. I think our home base might just be hanging out at the Can-Ham with the VR headset. At around 8 o'clock, Joseph and Bridget, the traveling sign painters, are going to be going to 4th Rooftop to set up their stuff. So they have like a big easel, and I think it's a 3x4 piece of plywood that they're painting specifically for 4th as part of like directional signage in there.
Cool. I might run over to 4th just to like see who's there and say hey, and to, you know, but I'll be like pretty tight on time. Just I want to make sure everything's like set first. So I'll probably do 2 rounds of that, like running to each spot, then running to double check. All of the content is pretty much just like a looping animation. Just keeps it really simple. I've found that people tend to have a short attention span, so some people are just going to watch it for a few seconds or maybe take a video or something. But the idea is it shouldn't be like a 5-minute loop. It's like really quicker loops. So that's how I'm kind of basing the content. If anything, I love the idea that they might look up and notice the sign is lit or like painted fresh again for some reason, and they might stare at it for a couple seconds, and then they might catch as soon as it fades into something else and realize this is animating and something more is happening. So that sort of like element of surprise, I think, is what I'm aiming for with the loops and stuff. So cool. We'll see. Man, it's gonna be quite a night.
Painting a sign is kind of like meditation, I'd say.
Yeah. Most days when I put the brush onto any piece of paper, whether it's practice or for a sign, it's all 100% focus on what I'm doing. Any type of emotion of like anger or stress kind of just like disappears, and I just kind of go into the groove of making this thing.
Usually as soon as I get the information, my mind kind of starts rolling when I start working on a sign. So we're painting this for 4th Coffee. I knew that their logo was pretty clean and simple. So for this, it's like kind of a nice classic, just 2 colors and a little bit of like the wood grain. The hardest part is probably getting it out of my head and onto the paper. I believe this one's going in their stairwell up to the patio. Not a lot of people know about their rooftop patio, and their patio kind of like overlooks a whole bunch of old ghost signs. I guess that's what like the old original ghost signs were for, was for like just showing people like just small little pieces of information they needed. It was advertising, it was wayfinding, it was the name of a company, showing you where that company was. I don't know, it kind of fits what I like to do. I like doing art that has a purpose. I like that this particular sign has a purpose. Somebody was helped in some small, mundane way. I kind of like that. So this painting is kind of almost more of a performance. We'll be painting it like in front of kind of a bunch of, not a live audience, but just like a bunch of people who are gonna be kind of on the patio, like experiencing the whole night. One of the projections is gonna be up on one side, and then we're basically gonna be on the other, painting this sign. You've done as much kind of organizing and planning as possible. You're there. Now you just have to start doing it. The very first brushstroke on the first letter or the first word or whatever that I do, it's kind of like, okay, go.
Sun's going down. Fuck. I might go to Stobart to get one set up. I don't want 5 of them half done. Race against the clock. We have 2 spots completely set, ready to go. We have Stobart that's good to go as soon as it's dark enough. Milady's good to go as soon as it's dark. We have 1 projector in place that's not at the right angle, so we're getting a table up there now. Yeah, once we get everything in place, it's gonna be like waiting for it to get dark. And it's 8:40 now, so 20 minutes until start time, but it's not gonna be dark enough. Yeah, he had the fan blowing out there, the intakes here. Yes, there it is. We are in business now. It's alive! Yes! Fuck yes! Woo! Woo! It's alive! Oh my god, there's so many people! That's insane! There are so many people. Alright, where are the beers? Yay! I don't know, I'm just so excited that we got all 5 of them are now lit, and Matt and I are going to kind of do a walking tour, explore the signs on our own, take a minute to enjoy them, kind of reflect on all of this work and this crazy rush of the past, God, couple months, but very intense past 48 hours. Woo! Holy crap.
Did you guys meet yet?
Hi.
Oh, hi, Henry DeRitter.
Hey, Henry.
Nice to meet you.
Craig.
Owner of RW.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
You came out for it.
I did.
It's been amazing digging up the history of your company.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. There's a lot of history in the old market square, and I think these signs show it off. Some of their products we remember using even.
Yeah.
Well, living in Winnipeg, you see the ghost signs all the time. I don't necessarily always know the history of them, and I've always been interested in graphic design and advertising. It's just kind of cool to get to see it being noticed in the city.
Seeing them lit up in their state where they normally were, and seeing Winnipeg in its glory.
It's funny because it's like it's done, but it was a bit of a blur for like the 3 or 4 hours that we were doing it. I'm very excited to go through the social feeds and see people's reactions to the night, and you know, hear their experiences seeing and interacting with the signs themselves.
I didn't previously spend a lot of time in libraries and historical societies. Like, history is boring. That's like the thought growing up, is I want to like make cool things and create things. I sort of saw history in that way of it's this thing that happened, and there's nothing you can really do. You can learn from it, but you can't really do or create something with it. And over the past couple of years, I've realized the absolute opposite, where you can really look to history for inspiration. You can look to, I mean, these ads specifically are just a ton of just different design relics all across the world. And I think it would be a shame not to collect, document, preserve. There's this visual history that starts with seeing a thing, and then a conversation happens immediately after. If anything, you can't deny that these ghost signs start conversations with people.
Advertising is evolving, you know, decade over decade, year over year. Techniques are changing, tactics are changing. I always talk about, you know, what's the lasting power of a Facebook ad or a 6-second pre-roll video. Just like every form of technology, it's going to get replaced with something else. So it's great to see that people are actually investing in themselves to learn, you know, the craft of sign painting, and then being able to pass it along to future generations. What I'd like to do over time is create a larger database of all of the signs in Winnipeg and the surrounding area that people can look back on, and essentially be able to use their computer as a bit of a tour guide to navigate the exchange and find these old signs that may not even exist in 30 or 40 years when they're looking around for them.
I feel like finally everything's making sense. High school lied to me. I get to do what I want.
I think the reason why it's good to keep like these essential skills alive is because I guess it just keeps tradition. It carries on someone else's knowledge through you. Like, I think that's why Rick was super eager to share with us, is because he gets to share all this wealth of knowledge that he gained.
It needs to stay because there's more than one type of person, and where some people are better at the digital stuff, then there's people who are better at like the mechanical and the physical stuff, and you need to kind of keep doing both. So everything you said plus my thing is what I would say.
But mainly Armageddon.
Yeah.
Once
mainly
Armageddon.
Once
Armageddon comes in, you don't know how to
all hell
farm
breaks
your-
loose and you need to write something on a wall, it needs to be legible, who are you going to come to?
You get an artist, and they will always come out. There's no way that the computers will eliminate them, because it's in our genes. As long as there's people that are dedicated enough to learn well and have a little bit of discipline with it, it'll never end. People always need it. You can put a sticker on a brick wall, but it will come off. If you paint, it'll stay put.